Consequences today for someone who was so blatant in his effort to stonewall Congress and their efforts to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Former Trump aide Peter Navarro has been found guilty on 2 counts of contempt of Congress.
That's right. Trump's former trade advisor has been found guilty. I had mentioned earlier this week that the trial was expected to be a speedy one. I didn't realize it was going to be this speedy, but he was in fact found guilty of 2 misdemeanor counts of contempt. This followed his decision to essentially ignore a subpoena from the special House committee investigating January 6th and the Trump campaign's attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, Peter Navarro had bragged about the plot in his own memoir, and about a few months prior to his subpoena, he had told Rolling Stone in an interview that, no, I don't think Congress has any interest in subpoenaing me or having a conversation with me because what I have to say contradicts their narrative. About a month later, they decided to subpoena him, and he ignored that subpoena and claimed that he was protected under executive privilege because Trump had urged him to ignore the subpoena. Now, there was no evidence of that. Trump never said that publicly. There was no document indicating that there was executive privilege involved. And so as a result, the case was not dropped and he did stand trial. So now that he's been found guilty on 2 misdemeanor counts, it's important to know that it is likely that if he fails to appeal this case, Cenk, he will serve a 1-month sentence because there is a minimum mandatory 1-month sentence for both counts, although they can be served together, so it has to be at least 1 month. But he does plan to appeal.
And we already know a sentence that someone else got for this because Steve Bannon was convicted of the same thing and he got 4 months. Now he's appealing, so he hasn't gone to prison yet. But there's a pretty good chance that Bannon and Navarro actually go to prison. Now, you could say, hey, 1 month, 4 months in prison, whatever it winds up being is not that big a deal. Or you could say, hey, it's a pretty big deal to go to prison for 4 months and have that on your record. So, I leave that interpretation up to you. And it's a contempt of Congress. I think that's about the right sentence for that. But my number one thing that I love about the story is, hey, it turns out the Republicans are not magically above the rule of law.
It is amazing.
Yeah, they have this smug, ridiculous attitude that like, well, of course I can break any law I like. And then if you charge me, I'll say, oh, it's all political. No, you don't get to break the law just because you're a right winger or a left winger or anything. No, you're accountable to the goddamn law. So the fact that they convicted him today, it's a relief. It makes me feel a tiny bit more, it makes me feel a little bit like I have more faith in the American justice system. And by the way, some right wingers, of course, immediately jump in with, oh yeah, what about, right? The whataboutisms. Okay, fine, who cares? They're like Eric Holder did the same thing. How come they didn't go after him? They should have. And I've never defended Eric Holder. Eric Holder violated many parts of the Constitution. What's next? Who cares? Like, we don't care about this partisan stupid stuff. What we care about is, you don't get to break the law over and over again and go, well, I'm one of the elites and they didn't charge one of the other elites, they shouldn't charge me. And by the way, it's not really it's a Republican thing because they're now doing it in dozens of times, right? But it's more of an elite thing.
Yeah.
Because the January 6th rioters didn't get to say it, right? They're all going to prison. They're going to prison 18 years, 22 years, etc. It's only the elites in Washington who are like, how dare you try to apply the law to me? And I'm gonna just talk real quick about his absurd defense that I love that it didn't work. His number one, so he's talking about executive privilege, right? But the judge is like, okay, yeah, but we're in a court of law. So where's the executive privilege?
Show me the evidence
Show
of
me
the
where it
executive
is.
privilege, exactly.
Yeah, did Trump order it? Show me the document that says it, right? Oh, we don't have it. Well, then you're guilty. Okay, so that's point one. Point two is, they're like, the prosecution never showed that this was willful on his part not to show up. They never even showed you where he was on that day. And I love what the prosecution did. They got up and they're like, who cares where he was? What matters is where he wasn't. He was ordered to go to Congress and testify, and he didn't go to Congress and testify. But there's 2 elements of deception there. One is what the jury got past, which is Yeah, why are you distracting me with whether he was fishing or he was at Walmart, right? I don't care. He got an order to show up and he didn't. If I did that, I'd be going to prison. So I'm gonna send this guy to prison, right? But the second part of it that's amusing is, look at the liar, Peter Navarro. All that tough guy talk of like, oh, they don't want to subpoena me. They don't want to hear what I have to say. Then they subpoena him, as Anna told you, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, don't subpoena me, right? And then now he goes to the court and he says, well, I didn't necessarily not show up because it was willful. I mean, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I overlooked it. But dude, you're on camera bragging about how you won't show up and how you're such a tough guy and you don't have to follow the law. So which one is it? Were you lying in public or were you lying in the courtroom? And of course, his lawyer lies on his behalf. But beautiful day in America, none of those lies worked. Anytime a Trump acolyte goes into court, their BS gets so exposed, you can smell it from 3 states away. Because on TV, oh yeah, lies, crackers, mules. They go into court, they're like, every judge, including Trump appointed judges, they're like, cool, where's the evidence? And they're like, oh, I don't know, we were just making it up. Well, you go to prison if you were making it up, so there you go.
Yeah, and I think you've said everything that needs to be said about this, but I will just go back to what I believe is the most important point in your commentary, which is to say, the rule of law is important. And it is important to hold members of both parties accountable when they are shown to engage in wrongdoing or potential criminality. Obviously, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, but the idea that members of one party should be prosecuted, but members of our party or our preferred politicians shouldn't be prosecuted is ridiculous. Even my absolute favorite politicians, if they engage, favorite politicians, that's really difficult to determine these days. But let's say even someone like Bernie Sanders, laughable to consider it, but let's say he did commit some sort of crime or is accused of committing some sort of crime. I don't care how much I like him as a person or a politician. I don't care how much I like his policies. What I care about is ensuring that we have a system in place that people are held accountable by, and that there isn't a double standard depending on whether you're part of a certain political party or if you're a member of the elite. So I am happy to see this day. I'm happy to see that our institutions still work to some extent, and I agree with you about Eric Holder as well. There shouldn't be a double standard based on political ideology or political party.
Yeah, and last thing on it, guys, if 2 things can be true at the same time, it could be that the establishment is hypocritical, and I think they are. Like Eric Holder, blatant violation of the Constitution when he said that you don't need judicial review to do extrajudicial killings by the executive branch. If Trump had done that, mainstream media would have ripped his face off and they would have prosecuted him, they would have done everything. But the beloved Eric Holder and the beloved Barack Obama did it, so not a peep. So the people on MSNBC, liars, okay? They would never bring that stuff up and they would defend Eric Holder. They're like, oh yeah, of course the president should be able to murder people without going to the courts, right? You liars, you hypocrites. Okay, at the same time, Republicans, I thought you were for law and order. So is your idea, no, our elites should be able to break the law anytime they like to? Well, that ain't populist, man, and that ain't conservative. That's just you saying, I want to cheat. So I'm not having it from either side. If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.